Hey guys, welcome. Muskie Roswell's podcast, episode number 241 or 2. I'm not for sure. After last week's debacle, I don't know which one we're actually on right now. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. Guys, we're kind of coming into the middle part here, getting ready to get going in the summer peak for most of you guys in Muskie country, and that's going to be pretty exciting. Before I get the guys on here that I got tonight for you, let's say who we're brought to you by, and that is Red October Baits. Superior versatility, guys. You can move. It's one of the few baits that you can change harnesses in, change sizes, do all kinds of stuff. They're makers of the Monster Tube series. They've got the 10-inch Monster Tube, 7.5, and the 12-inch. Guys, one of the most versatile baits you'll ever fish, and one of the most fish-catchingest baits that you'll ever fish as well. You can fish them shallow, mid-depth, or deep. Check them out on Facebook. Just look up Red October Baits. Also, you can text me. I always love seeing your text messages on the Lungin Lures text line. Guys, Lungin Lures, remember, if you're looking for a crankbait, not much is better than a 22 short, 22 long, all the different sizes you're going to find. And check them out at LunginLures.com for all the custom colors as well. You know, guys, right now I have... I better tell you the text line number. I forgot to do that because I'm an idiot. It's a new one. You know that's a new one. Last few weeks, 502-977-4446. All from Lungin Lures, 502-977-4446. Guys, on the phone tonight, we got two guys that fish a ton of time in western Wisconsin, northwestern Wisconsin, that is, and I'm joined by Steve Jensen and Jordan Weeks. How's it going, guys?
It's going wonderful, Greg. Thanks for having me on once again.
Well,
likewise. Thanks again, Greg.
Oh, I tell you, thanks for coming on here. Guys, let's talk. We have got summer kind of just, not totally full swing, but we're there. We're after the 4th of July. And Steve, I'll start with you.
Amen for that. Adios, 4th of July. God bless America.
Exactly. How has your summer been so far?
You talking to me or you talking to Jordan?
Steve, you.
Yeah, it's been good, Greg. We've had a great start to the year. Oh, a lot of fish, and some big ones too. Not gonna lie, and we should have some biggers. You know how that goes. Everybody's got that story. But I would say, as you mentioned before, summer peak. Summer peak is kind of getting close, if not even starting to happen. Getting through this good moon here, and we've had nice weather. Water temps running about mid-70s here. In the last 8 or 10 days, we've had a 46 and a 49.
Nice.
Hit the net, yeah. Which, for us, those are big ones. Few over 40 and lots of activity. So I would say it's been real good, and fish are starting to move real fast. And when summer peak is getting here is when the fish really start to dart and dive around and show up at the boat a lot. In fact, the 49 was in the 8. Probably should have been a blown opportunity. My client got excited when she torpedoed him at the boat, and the bait came flying out on the first turn of the 8 through the air, which is never a good thing, as we all know. Normally the death sentence for that situation, but he plunged her back in, and she whirled right back around and annihilated him. So that was cool. You gotta love it when that happens.
Steve, what was that fish on?
That fish was on a secret lure that's called the Jensen Series Heavyweight Showgirl from Team Rhino Outdoors.
Oh my God! They named a lure after you.
Well,
this is exciting.
It's honestly the series of showgirls that we started building, and you probably remember this, Greg, because I believe you were there.
Mm-hmm.
We won the Mille Lacs PMTT way, way, way back.
Yep.
And we won that on those super heavy-weighted showgirls that were burning as fast as our poor little arms could reel. and it's been a lure that we really like, and I use a lot. Our fish here don't always like that really big, oversized stuff. Sometimes the smaller, downsized stuff works, but that's what we've been having a lot of luck on the last, I would say, the last 2 weeks. Numerous fish on those blades in the 8. In fact, I haven't anything on anything bigger than 8s yet, and I'm throwing other bigger stuff. We're certainly starting to get some bites on rubber as well, throwing some Mag Dogs and some Red October tubes from Red October baits.
Yep.
But we certainly have been catching fish on those as well. But the smaller blades going real fast, and a lot of stuff at the boat in the figure 8, which is fun. You know, when you have that stuff going on, big, small, I don't care. You have muskies chasing in the figure 8, and clients love that stuff. So
sure,
it's been fun.
No, good deal. Jordan, how's your season been going so far?
It's going kind of streaky. You know, I don't get to fish quite as much as Steve. So I was out quite a bit in May, or like mid-May to late May, and we did pretty well. We had a 6-fish day in the UP, and then we had another 4-fish day with 2 more lost in the UP. And so that was kind of fun. And since that time, beginning of June, I didn't really fish very much. I just got back from a family vacation where we were gone for 10 days in northern Wisconsin. And to be honest with you guys, I had a struggle. Normally I can look into some fish and find some, and my trusty Garmin will show me where they are, and I can eventually catch them. But this year, it was not that way. We really had a tough week. The fish were there. They just did not want to open their mouths. So I'm glad to hear that Steve's catching them. That just goes to show you that the guys who are on the water all the time, they usually have a little bit better luck than the guys who go every day.
Well, not always, but I appreciate your honesty, because not everybody doesn't catch them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's awesome that you can actually say you didn't have good luck. I often say that when we don't. It's been good for us, but I appreciate your candidness in that regard, because musky fishing's hard, man. It's always difficult, and
it sucks.
TV, yeah, it does suck. I don't know why we ever chose this as a profession. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it sucks even worse when you know where they are,
right?
And they won't, and they won't eat, and
that
was certainly the case for me.
Well,
that's the story.
Well, Jordan, let's talk. You were in the UP, you said,
in May, yeah,
in May. Do they? And again, this is. They do open earlier, right? When do they
have a year-round season, right?
Oh, that's right. Michigan did go year-round.
Yeah, it's year-round catch and release. It's been that way for, I want to say, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years now.
Yep. You're right, because you can actually do that on the U.S. side of St. Clair, too.
Correct.
But, well, that, so up there, their ice out is about the same time as northern Wisconsin?
Yeah, pretty much. When we were up there the first time, the water temps were in those kind of high 50s, so just at the tail end of the spawn time, and all the fish that we contacted were boys, and they were kind of still hanging around. The girls were not really available. They either were in open water where we weren't looking, or not interested in biting because they just got done spawning. But the boys were ready to play. And then I had another experience where it was kind of a mix, but that water temperature was quite a bit colder. It was a little bit bigger lake, and that's got a lot of colder water, so we were in the low 50s. Mm-hmm. And most of those fish for me were on real small rubber bait from Lake X lures that I can't really talk about.
Oh, go to the back cave. What?
I haven't been given clearance, super ultra top secret clearance.
Prototyper.
Yeah, prototype. What? Well, tell me about. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off on this, but just for a second, those Michigan lakes over there that you're fishing. So, I mean, when do guys start targeting them there? I mean, like as soon as the ice goes off, or are they waiting a little bit, or?
Well, that I assume. I wasn't there when the ice was going out. But,
okay.
I assume they were targeting them right away because the one lake we went to, the one day it happened to be a Saturday. That was a parking lot full of Wisconsin tags. So, they couldn't fish in Wisconsin,
right?
Which I tried to fix, and someone who will remain nameless screwed up.
Please, I'd love to blast anybody. Was it me?
No, I like my job.
Oh,
Yeah. We'll lay that down.
But yeah, it sure seemed like there was plenty of Wisconsin guys up there fishing as well.
sure. I get that. Well, that's that's pretty cool. So you guys, what was your water temps when you were up on your vacation, Jordan?
It was about the same as Steve's. I was about the same latitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, like 75 on those really sunny days in the afternoon, you might see surface temp at like 78. But, you go swimming and you get down just a hair, and you can tell that the water temperature is a lot cooler down 5 feet,
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical this time of year. The thermocline was just starting to set up. You can kind of see in about 17, 18 feet of water.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that here too.
Well, that's cool. So on your stuff, Jordan, over there, what were you? I know you said it was really tough, but what were you moving? Did you move fish on anything, or what did seem to be a little?
The baits we had luck on is we had a bucktail bite that was really fast, like Steve was saying, and that was really cool to hear him say that without talking to him prior. But yeah, we had really fast moving bucktails. Got a couple fish for my wife one night. And then my nephew actually got a couple fish on one of those micro shredders from TNA Tackle. And he was going as fast as he could go with the thing.
Is that the one with the? Is that the blade or just the spinner blade on it?
It's got the chatter blade on the front, and then in the back it's got another it's a number 6 fluted.
That's what I meant, except in reverse.
Yeah, and they were the real small ones. So the micro shredder, it's a small one, and our bucktail is just a regular, deer tail, number 8 fluted, going as fast as my wife could go.
So you guys are seeing now, Steve, and this will be a question for both you guys. Are you seeing the same water temps on clear lakes as the dirty water lakes?
So yeah, just a scoot chillier on the Clear Lakes, which I'm starting to spend much more time on because the darker water is getting, upper 70s, mid upper 70s, and the fish in the clear water seem to be moving just a little faster, which is not atypical for this area. Once the dark water starts to get real warm, you see those fish kind of laze up a little bit, and honestly, they've still been going pretty good. The Chippewa float has been kicking fish out surprisingly the last couple of weeks or so, but we're going to see that start to really to kind of slow down. You'll see those fish start to move deeper. You'll see more guys catching fish trolling, and as soon as I start hearing that and seeing that, I know that's time to be on the Clear Lakes. And a lot of times the casting bites there is still really good. And a lot of summers it's really good all summer if you know where to be and when to be there. I really enjoy fishing that clear water because you see a lot more. It's a lot more visual. And in my opinion, the fish are just a lot happier and moving a lot faster and a lot of times easier to catch, believe it or not.
Yeah,
this time of year, so.
the clear water. I was wondering that if you had kind of migrated over to that more.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that now for sure, and it's paying off results for sure.
Yeah, I'm up here on at the Northwest Angle right now, and it is like when it's calm. Some of these real hot days, I've seen as warm as like 81 in the shallows. Wow. But then the wind blows at 4 miles an hour, and it drops to 77, or it drops to. And then if it blows really hard, yesterday we actually had a really cool day, weather-wise, and water temperature I was getting on the surface was 68. 69 degrees, but I don't know if you guys had the cool weather or not.
Yeah, today was actually. I had guys wearing down vests and parkas all freaking day long, which is the first time in a long time. Obviously, it was pretty warm over the weekend. We had upper 80s, but today we barely touched 70 and had pretty good wind from the northwest. So we didn't get a fish today, which is the first time in a few days, and I suspect that was maybe the reason. We just didn't contact too much. Moved a few, but no biters today.
Sure. Jordan, has that made it over your way?
Yeah, that was pretty. Steve's story is pretty awesome, and it gets into that nerdy science stuff that I do for a job because he hit that stuff right on the head. Because I was on a sustained flowage, right? So the the water temperatures are creeping up there, the fish get fired up to a point and then they get stressed because that water tends to mix a little bit more. And so you don't have those different temperatures at the surface and down by the thermocline as much as in these deep clear lakes, that those fish can still find that desired temperature where they want to still be active and feed a lot. And so when they're uncomfortable, like there's a lot of science that tells you those fish basically don't bite.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
So that makes so much sense, what Steve's trying to tell folks.
No, I get
Yeah,
that.
and it works most years, and honestly, this year isn't as warm as others. Some years it's even more defined. I feel like the dark water is still capable of producing, but, as they get to those warmer temperatures, and especially, as you get in those upper 70s, I just feel like the fish get a lot happier when they jump over the clear lakes, and it might be 4, 5, 6 degrees cooler. And like you mentioned, you dive in the lake, and you go down 5 feet, it's a whole nother world. And people don't realize that. They're always looking at the temperature gauge, and they take that as what the water temperature is. But depending on time of year and the amount of sun and the amount of daylight, all those things factor into how deep and how far that warmth goes into the water column. And you got to realize some years it gets deeper down, some years it doesn't. And I'm actually seeing thermocline starting to develop here, like you mentioned, and it's pretty high this year. It's kind of weird. 16, 17, 18. Normally I would see that a little bit deeper, and it probably will go deeper, but it's just kind of interesting that a lot of times that warm water isn't as deep as you think it would be down into that water column.
Now, let me ask, this will be a question for both of you. Jordan will, I'm sure, get a little nerdy here, but what... for guys that want to know the thermocline, all right, Jordan, what are we talking about, and how are you finding it?
You want to go first, Steve, or do you want me to just hit that?
I'm going to let you because you're the nerd. And I find it with my depth finder. I just turn the sensitivity up.
Yeah, that's how I saw it this last weekend. The other thing that I use, because I am a nerd, is I actually have a temperature sensor that's just analog. It's not like anything fancy or digital, but you can buy the digital ones that have like a 30-foot lead on them, and you can put 1-foot marks and paint pen on them and drop it down and find out where that water temperature changes. And basically what the thermocline is, limnologically, is where the water density is changing, and that's associated with water temperature. And in a lot of lakes, not all, but some of them, below the thermocline, there is not any oxygen, or is very little usable oxygen for fish. And so the thermocline kind of becomes a false bottom for the lake, and all the beasts are either at it or above it. But there are some lakes that are oxygenated all the way to the bottom. They might be 80 feet deep, and there's good oxygen all the way to the bottom. It kind of depends on the groundwater influence and how big the lake is and how much wind fetch it has and the amount of seiche, which is movement of wind-blown water movement. So all of that plays into
the amount of heat, too, as well, as a factor there.
Yeah, and so, when we talk about muskie activity and the studies, the hooking mortality studies that have been done, and I don't know if you want to get into this, Greg. I can or cannot. You can give me the thumbs up or thumbs down.
I'm still whirling from the news that all the big fish don't live on the bottom in the summertime. Because when I was a child and I went to the lake, I wanted to throw my bait as far out in the middle of the lake, because that's where the big ones live. We all know that when we're 8. And I
think that where Nessie lives out there, but I don't know about anything else.
And then you'll put weight on it and let it sink to the bottom, and it lays there for like 7 seconds, and you reel it in and you want to cast it out again. That's where the big ones live. So I'm, like I said, you go into this because I think this thermocline stuff, because we're going to get to that warm water deal. I know it is, and it's going to get stupid. So talk about, anything to do with the temperature, thermocline, stuff like that. Dive in.
Yeah, so like what these mortality studies have shown is the waters, like rivers, that are all uniform temperature, despite the fact that they have supersaturated oxygen, which is basically as much oxygen as can possibly be in the water at any temperature. So like, for example, at 82 degrees, you can still have about 12 parts per million or milligrams per liter. It's the same unit of oxygen. And fish, muskies in particular, they can survive above 3. And they're happy at like 5 to 7. So anything more than that is just extra oxygen that they don't need, right? So the thing that I always heard back, I don't know, for the last 10 to 15 years was like, well, that hot water doesn't have any oxygen, so the fish are going to die when you catch them. Whether or not they die has very little to do with the fact that there may or may not be oxygen in that situation. And that's not the right culprit to be looking at. The culprit is the stress that's associated with the catch. And the stress comes from the fish's condition prior to the catch. And what these 3 separate mortality studies showed, they showed varying results based on what they were. So the first one I'll talk about is a pond study that was done in Wisconsin and then West Virginia and Maryland and one of the Carolinas. There's like 4 or 5 ponds, and these ponds showed a much higher mortality. But some of those pond fish were in conditions where the water temperature was up and over 90, which is unbelievable. And with those fish, I'm sorry?
Oh, I said I've seen water temps over 90.
Yeah, probably have. And some of those fish were handled and kept in the net for a really long time when they were captured because all that information was recorded. We didn't have any mortality from angling in Wisconsin. We had one fish that was caught 3 times in our part of the study and still never died, and one of the times was at 82-degree surface temperature. And the key was, and I'll get into this with the next study, was that the fact that our pond in Wisconsin, we didn't know, it's an old hatchery pond, and it actually had a seep in the bottom, so we had cold water in the bottom of the pond. So that fish, when it bit that 3rd time in that warm water, was comfortable before it ate the bait, right? And so the second study that was done was in Stonewall Jackson Reservoir, and that was a study where they had a whole bunch of fish radio tagged, and they actually fished for them, and they fished for them in hot water. Well, that thing stratified, and all those muskies were real easy to catch because they were right at the thermocline. And they could catch those fish, and basically only 2 fish died. One died because it choked a bondi. The other one died because it was caught by a crappie fisherman, probably fought it for an hour and a half, and then banged it around the bottom of the boat and let it go. And so the key was in that study is that they caught these fish in water that was like 74. They could bring them up into water that sometimes was 82, 86. As long as they weren't up there a long time, they seemed to do fine. You let them go, they swam down to their comfort level, they were fine. So that mortality was about 10%. Whereas that pond study where you had long net times, sometimes long fight times because some folks in the South don't know what a muskie rod is. They use bass rods for muskies.
We love it.
And I'm not talking about everybody. I'm just saying some. So don't get fired up.
I'm talking to a third of my family.
So they had about 50% mortality in that pond study. And then the kind of the middle of the road example was the James River in Virginia.
Can I ask you something real quick about the West Virginia one? Did you find those fish getting pulled up from deeper water where it was cooler to the warmer water? Did you notice any difference between bigger fish or smaller fish, how quick they went down?
I wasn't actually, I didn't measure any of those measurements. So I just got the results of this thing. Gotcha. So I'm not aware. I know they did catch big fish. They got 50-inch fish out there. So they caught some big fish out there. And so I don't know, how long it took them to get back down. That's a great question.
Yeah, because I just know in my experience when I was younger in the South, and I caught them up to 84, 85 degree water temps. And the smaller fish, let's say fish under 40, typically went down super quick. Everything was good. Never seen them pop back up. But if you fish over 40, a bigger, more mature fish, that fish might swim on the surface for an hour. And I just never noticed smaller fish doing that. I didn't know if it was, air bladder with it coming up so fast, something like that. And the bigger fish might be worse or the way they fight, or I didn't know if there was anything on that.
Yeah, I want to say the thermocline was about 18 feet, which is about what we can see in northern Wisconsin. So it was pretty similar that way. And so that's the parallel that I would make is like, look, when we got these lakes, like the ones that Steve's fishing that are clear, have a nice thermocline, much cooler water down, and a little bit deeper. And he's fishing, even if the surface is 82, he's probably not going to hurt any of these fish any more than you normally would angling.
Sure.
And that's what they caught a bunch of fish too. I want to say, and I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say Chase Gibson helped catch some of those fish.
Yeah, no. He did.
He might be able to tell you about the time that they went down, because I don't have that data. I didn't catch any of them.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I was just I didn't want to forget.
No worries. And kind of the middle of the road example. So we had the one with the thermocline, very low, like 10% mortality. Then we had the pond one, which was pretty high, way higher than I would have expected, is at 50%. And then the middle of the road one was the James River in Virginia. And in rivers, I've actually heard people say, well, rivers are okay to fish because there's more oxygen. Well, like I said before, 20 minutes ago, before I started rambling, these rivers, they do have oxygen, right? It's not an oxygen issue. It's a water temperature issue. So what they found in Virginia and the James is that these muskies would congregate by these inflowing streams. And these aren't trout streams like we may have in Wisconsin in some places. These were just warm water streams flowing out of a valley somewhere, right? And they were maybe a half a degree cooler than the main river, but the muskies knew it, and they would sit in these spots sometimes to the effect where sediment would actually accumulate on their back because they were so dormant. They were not feeding, and the part of the researchers were actually trying to catch them. And it took them 300% more longer to catch a fish than it would under cold water conditions. So that goes to the fact that these fish were super stressed and they were in survival mode, and there's no way that an angler is really going to be effective at catching any of those. Their mortality rate was about 33% when they did catch one of those fish. And it was really, really hard. Even when they knew there was a dozen fish at one river or creek mouth, they could hardly catch them. So, basically, if you get to those point where you know that your water temperatures are uniform from top to bottom, aka our rivers, especially this year with the low water in northern Wisconsin, that water starts getting warm, you probably shouldn't fish. And, I've talked a lot about this subject, and a lot of times I'm right about it, but this one I wasn't quite right.
I was going to say, you're kind of doing a 180, because I know you've never been a huge proponent of telling people not to fish when it's warm because of all, obviously, above information, but I think you're making a good point about, certain situations.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I'm not perfect, Steve, and I'm not always right about everything that I say. But I was, before these research projects, I was using the best available information, right?
Right.
And so I'm still not saying you should stop muskie fishing. I'm saying you can do it safely in a number of situations, and in others, particularly a uniform water temperature that's real high. Well, it's not even that you shouldn't fish. Like, you can go ahead and fish, but you're probably not going to catch
anything anyway. Catch them anyway. Right.
And that's something that I have been saying from the beginning. And I want to be clear about that. I said a stressed fish isn't going to eat. So you can fish for them till you're blue in the face. You can have the super secret Steve Jensen edition Team Rhino Outdoors.
You could have even
muskie
a super
slayer
secret prototype from Lake X.
Yeah,
I don't have any
you could have
secrets.
one of those. Maybe if you're lucky, you could get one. But yeah, it ain't gonna matter. You can have your forward imaging. You can have 10 forward imagings on your boat, and it ain't gonna matter because those fish aren't gonna bite. So, it's great that we have new research that can really highlight this stuff and kind of, make it so that you can still enjoy the resource, right? Because we do really have a short amount of time to enjoy the resource. And I've always been a proponent of increased angler opportunity. And, if you do it safely and you have more information, you can do it safely, and safely for yourself and safely for the fish. So.
And I agree 1,000%. And also, I always hear this as we get into the warm water season here in northern Wisconsin, and everybody starts freaking out. And use your brain. Choose the time of day that you fish. Very important. Fish in the mornings, very early. Don't fish in the hot afternoons or the evenings because the water doesn't have the time to cool down in those times. And then choose your water wisely. There's unlimited amounts of places to go fishing for muskies. If you're limited to one lake or one river, yeah, I get it, but for the most part, none of us here in northern Wisconsin especially are limited to that. And I often choose my water wisely, and that's the exact phrase I use, choose your water wisely. There's plenty of places to go where it isn't a critical thing, and when you learn where that cooler water is and how to use it, and actually find that the fish are much more active in it, it increases your opportunities and keeps you fishing when other guys don't.
Yeah, Steve, that's a really good point, and that's something that I didn't indicate is, like, if you are in that situation where you got a cabin on a lake where, you know, this is where you want to fish, and the water temperature gets warm, and you do catch one, and you want to do what's best for the fish, what's best for the fish is leave it in the lake, unhook it in the water. If you can, don't even net it, and then get that fish swimming away as quick as possible. So that is how you would minimize any additional mortality due to the water temperature. That's how you would make it the best situation. Now, I'm not saying that it's a great idea, you know, if you're in a situation like that. But if it's your only thing and you got your week-long vacation, like, again, opportunity. You're not going to crush a population because in general you're not going to catch any fish. But if you do happen to luck into one, the best bet is to keep it in the water, unhook it quickly, and let it get go. You know, I take pictures of everything, like every single muskie I catch, because it's data, right? But in this situation, I wouldn't.
Yep. Good advice.
No, that's good to know. The one little hack too, for if you want to know what the water temperature is, maybe 10 feet down, for guys that have the forward-facing sonar on a pole, it's easy just to throw the pole in and then pull it back up by the cord.
There you go.
And because I've done that.
I thought you'd just tell Tony to hold the pole, then throw him in.
Exactly.
Oh wait, he might not sink.
Exactly. Well, you know, he is full of hot air, so he might be able to push himself down. That's really good information there. I'm glad we got into that and talked about the thermocline, and you know, because I think it's something that, you know, like you said, Jordan, it's not cut it in stone that, you know, below it has no oxygen levels. You know,
yeah, and that's something that I notice here, Greg, is I have certain lakes where, you might run out of oxygen down below, but most of the lakes where thermocline develop here, there is not oxygen depletion to any great degree. I will often mark bait, often mark big fish below that thermocline. They may not be the ones that we're catching or getting to bite, but they certainly live down there. So it's certainly not an oxygen depleted environment here, but say like down in Illinois or in Kentucky and places where you get thermocline that establishes for a long, long period of time, and you have that high temperature where you get that huge temperature gradation from hot to cold. I think oftentimes you do get that oxygen depletion down below.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
like I said, it doesn't happen in every situation. Like Steve said, some regions, some lakes, and even one across the road from another one might have a different oxygen threshold. And the only way to know really is to have an oxygen sensor and do that.
What about like throwing a quarter in on the bottom and just swimming down there and see how that goes?
I think you should do that experiment and let us know how it works out for you.
Probably not well. I was never good at picking up quarters at the bottom of the pool. The summer's getting going here, Steve. Can you maybe give 3 lures that have kind of been good for you so far, and if you feel they're going to continue for the summer?
Yeah, for sure. Right now we're having that good blade bite going. That kind of goes away as it gets a little bit warmer, though I usually keep one rolling. That's been, like I mentioned before, that heavyweight series from Team Rhino Outdoors. I also love the Single Girl. This particular region, that Single Girl is a fish catching machine. Last year was probably one of my top producing bladed baits. And then the Magnum Bulldog. She mows fish down and still does each and every day. If I threw it all day, every day, I could catch a muskie. I really feel that, and most days I can perform that. And number 3 would probably be the Red October 2, which you mentioned before. It sucks everybody's figuring it out. We fished for years without too many guys using them, and now guys are realizing the versatility and the actual fish catching ability of that lure. When placed in the proper hands and put in the proper water, worked in the proper manner, it's a fish catching machine. And as that water gets warmer, it's a lure that I can work down to depth. I can keep it up high and then work it down that wall of weeds. And a lot of times these fish will stage along that wall of weeds, oftentimes a little bit deeper down in that 10 to 12 foot region. And it's a bait that I can get down in their strike zone, and I can keep it there a little bit. Along with that darting, diving action, it will produce a lot of strikes. So those are probably the 3 things that I'm going to throw a lot of. Of course, where I'm always mixing it up, trying different things. That's the key. Be versatile with muskies. There's never one way to catch them.
Yeah. But Jordan, what do you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I still like throwing top water if I can get them to bite that. Nothing secret about that. I mean, the bucktail bite, like Steve says, I always have either one of those or an angry dragon going because they have a little bit more weight in the head and they tend to get down a little bit. They have a lot of vibration and you can run them deeper. So that's a nice option. And then I usually run a rubber bait, B52 from Lake X, and I add weights to the front hooks to get them down because in general I don't buy the heavy ones. I want them to run shallow for most of my fishing, but in the summer I'll put weights on them to get them to go down.
Cool. Well, I think that's good info for people that are making their trip up. How's the traffic been? Has there been a lot of muskie pressure in your all's area, or is it?
It's been nice, honestly, this year. There's people fishing, of course. There's a lot of water users. Not all fishing. There's plenty of people utilizing the resource, but not a huge amount of people muskie fishing yet. They're certainly starting to increase. Seeing a lot of bass fishermen yet. We have a lot of smallmouth bass fishermen in the region. A lot of guys doing that. But tons of pontooners and jet skiers got fired up, certainly over the 4th of July. So there's certainly people on the water, but I would say muskie pressure has been medium to light even.
Agree. Yep, I agree with that assessment. Steve's always right.
Steve's always right. Well, that makes it easy. Well, that makes it nice. Well, that's cool. I didn't know if you guys had been seeing a lot of pressure or not, or I didn't know if I just didn't know kind of how it was up there. It's here at the Northwest Angle in the area. To me, it's not that bad. You're seeing some boats, guys. You'll see a muskie boat probably have, a couple every day, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I was wondering is if you guys were seeing a lot of pressure down there or anything. How's your forecast looking in Northwest Wisconsin? Is it looking favorable?
Really, really solid. Looks favorable. We got some cool weather this week, which anytime you get cool weather in the middle of July, that's a huge bonus. Like I'm saying, water temps in that mid-70s, so feeling good about really everything. We don't see huge heat waves coming. Could use more rain. We have been really, really dry in all of Wisconsin. That remains so to the point where some of our rivers are very low. Some of the lakes that I normally typically would fish early spring and fall are inaccessible. Can't even get my boat in them. So we do have that kind of an issue going on here. It could rain for 40 days and 40 nights, and it probably wouldn't bug me because we need it. Other than that, temperatures look favorable.
Good. Jordan?
Yeah. Once again, I agree with almost everything that Steve said. The water levels in the rivers. I mean, for those guys who like to kayak or even the fly guys, it's really getting hairy for those folks because you might as well just wade. And soon, if we don't keep this kind of cool trend, I mean, in La Crosse, which is usually really hot, last night it was 50, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so that's going to help keep these temperatures down, keep the fish fired up for however long that lasts, and, it'll be good fishing for folks. And I guess I'm going to go back to that pressure question. I didn't see much for pressure all week last week until it got to the weekend, and then, of course, when people were up there, I did get mad one time because there was a big fish on a spot, and there was 2 boats sitting on it. So I was mad that night.
That's why I don't guide. I try to not guide over the 4th of July. It's a nightmare.
I saw more jet skis combined on Sunday than I saw for the last 3 years on that body of water.
Yeah. It just gets crazy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But well, guys, good deal. Steve, you got anything you want to promote?
Just Team Rhino Outdoors, of course. Everybody should check that out. Amazing custom lures, 24/7, 365. The mono selection that Jeff has is unbelievable. Every lure that you heard us talk about is available there, and many exclusive custom colors, a lot of which I've helped design. And, of course, St. Croix Rods is a big sponsor of mine. They came out with a new grass series this year. It's been really cool. A lot of guys are really, really enjoying them. I'm really enjoying them. Probably the most comfortable rod that I've fished. And, of course, Recon Boats. Recon's been an awesome sponsor of mine for years. I'm in my 4th brand new Recon. And Recon's now the PMTT Championship boat, as well as the Muskie Alliance raffle boat. Johnny Johnson has really taken off on and picking up where Ranger has left off, and for good reason. Recon is an amazing boat, awesome performing, versatile boat, and definitely something somebody should check out if you're into the market for a new boat. ReconBoat.com. And of course, if you want to get out fishing here in the Hayward area, I've been doing it a long time, 23 years. Been guiding these areas, probably muskie fishing here for over 30. So give me a call, 715-558-3709, fishhunt.com, or, of course, Facebook, Steve Jensen with a G. And as always, Greg always knows how to get a hold of me as well if you need to get a hold of me.
Yeah, just call me, and then I'll vet the call.
Yep.
And then
he loves fielding phone calls.
Yeah, and I'll vet the call and see what we can do, what we can throw down. Jordan, you got anything up?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to promote my new website. It's SteveJensen'sAlwaysRight.com. All
I thought it was
proceeds go directly to my retirement.
I thought it was going to be an OnlyFans.
Well, I'm still working on them for that one, but I got some problems with this significant other with that, I think.
It happens.
So, no, I work with Lake X Lures and TNA Tackle. They make great baits. You know, if you're looking for a topwater, in my opinion, there isn't a better one out there than any of the Lake X topwaters, and they got some darn good rubber baits. I did want to mention that we did have some action on Lake X toads, but we had to weight them, and we had to go super fast. So that kind of goes back to that trend we were talking about. Other than that, buy a fishing license because that's good, and enjoy your muskie fishing.
Well, all right. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Guys, last thing I want to tell you is that we have the collectible lure for 2023. You're going to be looking for a letter in the mail or an email on your computer about getting, if you are a collector, so that you can get your number and autograph series with that. And it's going to be the Shallow Raider by Muskie Innovations. Came out in 1996. That was a long time ago. But that's going to check that out. You're going to see that. Check your emails. Guys, great talk tonight. Learned a lot. And learned that Steve's never wrong. So I would go to trivia night with him. So
I wish all my clients knew that as well.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Right.
Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.